Hello, friends, and welcome to Every Touch Point Matters. This is the podcast where we explore how leadership, relationships, and every professional interaction shapes the way business gets done. And today I am joined by David Hanfland. He's the CEO of Point B, and David is a 30 plus year consulting industry veteran known for helping companies transform how they grow, lead, and operate. Before taking the helm at Point B, he spent over a decade at AT Kearney's global leadership team, shaping strategy, driving growth, and leading the Americas region. He's a proud Chicagoan, and he's earned his MBA from Booth, University of Chicago, and has his undergrad from Indiana University's Kelley School of Business, where he continues to serve on the Dean's Advisory Council. David is passionate about the power of partnership, working side by side with clients and colleagues to unlock potential and deliver lasting impact. David, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Great to have you, man. I'll tell you. I'm blown away by your career. We just figured out that we know people from your roots, Bloomington, Illinois. We're golf fans. We do lots of different things, but tell me a little bit about your journey. Indiana University, you're a business guy there, then Booth. Was there a stint in between of regular working before you went to U of C? And then, of course, your long career at AT Kearney. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I think I'm still regular working. I started out my career as an auditor with Price Waterhouse, and I really enjoyed that. I liked the professional service aspect, but wasn't getting fulfilled in terms of the nature of the questions that we were working on. And so they had a nascent group that was focused on consulting and doing economics, so litigation support, reorganization. So it was a lot of analytics that was applied to different kinds of problems than what I was doing in audit. And so after a couple of years doing audit, I jumped into that practice and really, expanded my world to a whole different set of ways of working and different types of analytics. And after a couple of years, I decided that if I wanted to stick in that, I really needed to get an education and go back and get a master's, because a lot of those guys were testifying and serving as experts. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. And so I went to University of Chicago, got my MBA. As I came out, I had the good fortune of getting recruited by Kearney. And they, at that time, had an economics consulting practice that was doing a lot of transfer pricing work, a lot of really complicated, large-scale economics analysis. And they liked my accounting background. They figured I was smart enough. I got through Booth, and so they gave me a shot. And I loved it. It was fun. And then I started to just take on different types of roles within Kearney, and just went from there. And so, I'm just blessed to have had stumbled into, frankly, a number of really interesting opportunities over the course of my career.
Well, Dave, thanks for that background. I've got some IBM roots. You've got Kearney roots. You've got Big Four roots. We learned some interesting things from bigger firms. I like to say that when I was at IBM, I just assumed the way IBM did things was the way the rest of the business world worked. And then when I left IBM and got into the regular working world, businesses don't run like these machines that at least IBM was, and I think Kearney was. What was sort of the contrast when you left Big Four, got into Kearney, and then you started working with a lot of firms as clients who you were advising, and you would assume they had some of this stuff figured out.
Yeah. Well, I think every firm has parts of it figured out. Yeah. And no matter they're big or small, they have some secret sauce that they're really good at. And I think Price Waterhouse had really, really strong client service mentality. I think that's true across professional services. If you're a client service business, I think you have to be just so focused on doing great client work. And so every place I've been, that's been a foundational element. I did spend 5 years at Huron, which was a spin out of Arthur Andersen. And going back to your theme of this, which is every touch point matters, they taught me so much about relationships. And if you go back to the Arthur Andersen legacy, they were amazing at knowing everyone. And so Kearney By contrast to Huron and
Yeah.
to Arthur Andersen, Kearney really focused on content and had great deep thinkers who would solve really complicated problems. That's kind of the history of that firm. Arthur Andersen, Huron, it was let's go meet everybody in town, and if we know them, we'll figure out what we can sell them. And so I've learned so much there. And then what I've tried to do is I think there's a balance in between those two, which is you've got to bring content, you've got to bring the right kind of approach to be able to solve your clients' problems, but you have to know them. It's a trust-based it's a, relationships in business. It's all about trust, and you do business with people you know and people you trust. And so you can't trust somebody that you don't know.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because that does shed light a little bit on your journey and your perspective. Kearney being really kind of your classic consulting firm, deep thinkers, great subject matter experts, technical, and too often, as you know, we assume that that's going to carry the day in terms of the relationship. Maybe it did back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't think it does now, kind of the reason I'm in this business. I think there's some other things we need to be bringing to the table. But then you went to Huron, and I remember, was it Gary Holdren?
Gary Holdren.
Yeah.
Gary Holdren was the CEO when I started there.
Gary started Huron and came from Andersen.
Yeah.
And you think of the sad situation with the Andersen blow up, but man, I'm telling you, all of that amazing talent went out into the marketplace, either were consumed by other organizations or started their own businesses. And they took the roots of Arthur Andersen, and that is that client service element.
Absolutely.
Right? That relationship-centric mentality, and embedded it in a lot of firms. Some doing it better than others.
Yeah.
But that's great to know. I always like to say, and you may have heard me say it, there's a lot easier ways to earn a living than professional services.
Yes.
This is a hard industry.
Yes.
You stuck it out, man, and now you got a new gig, and I want to talk about that in a minute. But it's not easy. We have to be on every day. We're all about deliverables. We get sideways sometimes on projects and client relationships, and we've got to find our next piece of work. It's hard, in my opinion. But you stuck it out. How come?
I think any career, it's all about growth. And I think that you have to keep challenging yourself to find new ways to take on new things that are going to interest you, but also help you to expand your own set of capabilities. And I've always stepped back every 3-4 years and said, okay, this next journey, am I going to get the opportunity to grow and do stuff that's going to be fun? And am I going to stay in balance with what I need for my family? And I had the great fortune with Kearney for most of it to be able to say yes to that. Yeah. And every time I was like, I started to get bored, there's some big client that would be doing something. I had some really interesting big clients, and I do some really fun work. Then it was like, okay, I'm kind of not so much wanting to do as much client work. I really want to do practice leadership. Okay, let's do that. Then I got on the board and did that for 3 years and kind of transformed the way that the firm was operating. Yeah. And then I got into the leadership of the Americas. Yeah. Then I ran strategy for the firm. And then I kind of got bored and I said, let's go try point B. Yeah. I just think that, always challenging yourself to find that next, what's that next level for you? Yeah. Because if you're just kind of checking it in, I think that it's a really, really hard business. This isn't an easy business, but if you're not motivated and finding ways to energize yourself, it's can be really, really difficult. I always say this is an energy game. We're in the energy business, which means we give energy to our clients. Yeah. We have to give energy to our teams. And if you're an energy giver, this is a lot more, of a sustainable profession. And I've always found that, the next step in my career, I've had the ability to energize myself and therefore to give others energy.
All right. I love that answer. But let's take it one step further. You had a choice in this next gig that was going to give you a challenge. Yeah. That's basically what you said. Where can I give energy, and where can I challenge myself to take the next step? You had a choice. You could have gone outside of professional services as well as stay in because of all the experience that you had at Kearney. You stayed in. Okay. Was there a reason?
Lots of reasons.
Okay.
One, I'm good at it. So,
Yeah.
I really know how to, I figured out how to be very, very successful, and not only in doing great client work, but also leading professional services firms.
Got it.
I had done that within Kearney, and I had the desire to teach or show myself that I could do it outside in a different environment, and that some of the magic that I had within Kearney would work in other places.
Yeah.
The other is, I think it's a really interesting and dynamic time for professional services.
Yeah.
There's a lot of capital going into the industry, and that capital is often not, there's a lot of that capital is not being driven from people that really know the industry deeply. And so I saw an opportunity with Point B. It's private equity owned. Endeavor Capital owns about 60% of the firm. I saw an opportunity to get myself experience outside of a traditional partnership, which Kearney was, into private equity, which I think will, there'll be more and more of these kinds of businesses that have private equity backing. And I see myself in boards and other roles going forward that I thought this experience would help me.
Oh, fantastic. So you stuck it out in pro services, and clearly you're going to move the needle. There's a bit of a pivot with Point B right now,
Sure.
because they started around the same time I started my business 22 years ago. Was it
30.
30 years. Okay.
30
So
years
they
ago.
were earlier than I was,
Yeah.
but heavily rooted in project management, program management. They were sort of their forte. Um, Across any kind of technology, any kind of projects, those sorts of things. Your task was something beyond that. Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, that is the roots of this firm, and I
Yeah.
think they're really strong roots. They've got a great legacy and a great foundation of clients. The pivot that we're making is strengthening our technology capabilities as we go in and help clients today. Everyone's struggling or working through, how do I get value from technology? And the technology is not the issue. Technology is, you can find all kinds of solutions. It's how do you knit them together with the right changes to your process, the right changes to your organizational model? How do you change the way that the organization is wired, and allows you to get the benefit from the technology? So we've strengthened our technology capabilities, not for technology's sake, but it's because that trigger event is so integrally of technology, so integrally linked to that transformation.
Yeah.
And you go back and, you had every client's got different transformation triggers. It's an acquisition, it's a change in leadership. But right now, the trigger that 95% of our clients are wrestling with is, I know I can get more value from technology. I know I'm not doing as much as I could. I don't know how to get there. And I've had, clients in this whole week talking about how do I set up the programs and the processes to be able to leverage data analytics, AI more effectively than what we're doing today.
Okay, so let's keep going on kind of dialing up the technology piece. Is it leaning into certain platforms or being agnostic across?
Agnostic across. We have relationships with a number of platforms, but I think that as a consulting firm, we have to be trusted advisors to our clients. And to be trusted advisors, you have to be able to help them understand the choices that they have across all of the different technologies. I'll use a good example.
Yeah.
Restaurant is an industry which is going through massive transformation. And you think about the challenges that they have in terms of getting talent. They are trying to, the customer needs are changing. So how you interact with your restaurant, whether you're placing a mobile order, whether you're going to the restaurant, that's all changing. So they are a industry that's been, very, very traditional, haven't changed.
Yeah.
They've got to step into a digital world now.
Yeah.
And so we are working with them to say, okay, what is the digital restaurant of the future? How do you start to weave these technologies into everything you're doing? That then we're working, okay, what's your point of sale system? You want to use Toast? Do you want to use NCR? Do you want to use, an Oracle system? Like, we can't say this is the one we're representing. We
Okay.
have to know all of those and be able to say, here's your choices. Here's how it fits to the back of the shop. Here's how it fits into your inventory management system. Here's how you knit all these different technologies together in a way that allows you to be, operating the way that you want to, and the way that's going to serve your customers the best.
Okay. So would you say the restaurant industry is an industry specialty of your
It is,
firm?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so are you working with probably some bigger fast casual restaurant chains that
Across the board,
have scale?
it's fast casual. It is. We actually just this one's public. Whataburger gave us their partner of the year for the transformation that we've been working with them on to help them digitize their business. So yeah, we're working with across big big ones that are digitizing a portion and don't need the same kind of support, all the way through mid and smaller size that need to think about the entire journey that they need to go through.
Got it. All right. Let's keep going on that. Pro services itself is changing a lot. AI is disrupted. It's the people that we teach and work with. They have terrific subject matter expertise, and that's what they lean into. That's their identity. But AI is kind of taking some of that off the table, right? We can do that. We don't, and it's not that we don't need the individual, but that individual may be bringing less technical competence to the table. I believe, and that's why we're in business, that these individuals need to show up differently. They need to begin to cultivate some other skills, and it's a lot of what we teach in the relationship expansion program, so that we show up as that more strategic, trusted advisor. But AI is impacting other parts of professional services. Now that you run a business, where else are you seeing it disrupt?
Yeah, I think, well, you and I've been around for a long time. So there's always been new changes that have happened that force you to rethink your business. I think AI is dramatically changing how you develop insights. I think the insights that you drive in terms of understanding a problem, looking at potential solutions to it, like you can look at so much more data, so much more, perspective in a much, much faster way. That is much different.
Okay.
I mean, when I started in the business, you'd start with you'd start with a business problem, and your first, half of the project will be finding the data to be able to even, frame out the potential solutions to the problem. Like there's more data out there and more of that than you will ever be able to drive. That drives a different kind of consulting and you can use that data in much more sophisticated ways though, if you don't have it. So that is changing. It just changes how we have to focus. I think it also puts a much greater emphasis on experience. And I think to your point, I think there's a range of different capabilities you're serving or selling as a consulting firm. One is it's experience to be able to help a client through a complex situation. You've been there, done that. You've helped others through the problem. You know how to, kind of in a very structured way, help them to put the pieces together in a way that fits. The second is process, and you've got procedures, or you just know how to, I don't know, example would be outsource a call center. Okay. Like I've done it 50 times and I go through these steps, I go out and get bids, and I know how to do that. And the other is you can just be providing labor. To me, I want to be on the providing expertise and experience because I think that is really what the clients are looking for. They can find and get, especially now with the AI, they can get the process. Like there's no differentiation between a consulting firm saying, here's the 3 steps I take, or this is the 4 steps that, this other firm takes. The client knows those things. What differentiates you is how do you knit together the right experience and the right capabilities to be able to help that client through that really unique journey that they're going through.
Well, and at the end of the day, it is about differentiation, and we live in a pretty commoditized world called professional services. 20, 25 years ago, when you and I were getting started, you could tell the difference between one provider and the next based on technical competence. Mm-hmm. There were players and there were pretenders. I don't think you can do that anymore. everybody's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so the challenge becomes, how do we differentiate individual consultants and as a firm? And you're suggesting that the experience piece and that knitting together of various experiences to bring a unique insight to the table. That's what it feels like.
Unique insight or unique set of capabilities that allow you to drive the client forward. I think of our job as being catalysts for change as consultants. I think part of that as a catalyst for change is bringing insights and to articulate those insights in a way that helps the client, get to change their business. A lot of it's also, how do you bring them along through the journey in a way that gets all their parts, working in unison.
Yeah.
And so I think that catalyst for change is a big role that is really important for clients to play effectively. But it's a multidimensional challenge. So you have to bring a variety of different skills as a consulting firm to be able to help that client through that journey. Because if you just bring, okay, I got a bunch of really deep analytical thinkers, that'll work for, a quarter of the population that says, okay, well, they showed me the answer and therefore we're all on board. There's a whole other group that is looking for, helping them to understand, different motivations. They want to understand how it's going to impact, the culture of the organization.
Yeah.
So you've got to bring all those in a way that fits together.
I really like that. So many of the young consultants that we teach, they assume their technical competence, as I mentioned before, is going to carry the day. I'm going to build my credibility, my street cred, through my technical excellence. I think what you're saying is use all that technical excellence and experience to help the client think differently.
Yeah.
Man, when you can do that, now you got my attention.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and not only think one client, but the complexity of clients is, you got to convince the whole organization, because the one detractor is going to hold the organization back. So it's easy to convince the CEO, okay, yeah, we need to go adopt AI, or we need to do these things. But you got a whole, group of people that have to follow through. And how do you get them on board?
Yeah,
and
so
it's
it's
different
not-
motivators to be able to get them there.
So it's not just one connect at the client, it's all the players
Gotta get them all.
who have a voice.
That's where client, that's the hard part about change.
Yeah, that it is. You got to onboard a lot of people.
Exactly.
Right? Let's shift back to your job in the Americas, if you don't mind. You had line of sight with different countries, I'm going to assume. And one of the things we've been doing, we've been doing this a long time. We're doing international work for several clients. And I find it really interesting, this whole notion that technicians are anxious about moving outside of their comfort zone from technical competence to now technical, and I got to go build relationships. I've got to help cross-sell work, find other needs, support the growth of a particular client footprint. And at first, before we started doing international work, I was concerned that maybe our content might not play because cultural differences on how we build relationships. But what I have found is the issue and challenge about a technician being reticent about stepping out of their comfort zone and building relationships and doing stuff beyond just their technical competence, that is a universal issue, regardless of the country.
Yep.
Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I not only in leading the Americas, but I was on the board and I was part of the global management team for the last 10 years. So I think that the relationship and how that interacts with technical competence is an issue that's universal to all professional services firms. I think that one of the tricks is how to match those two in the right way. And I think what I think of is as a professional, you've got two things you need to be doing, at least two things. But one is to develop relationships with clients and then have that technical expertise. You don't have to necessarily monetize the relationship through your own technical expertise, though. You're a trusted advisor to the client. You can't possibly be able to be the expert on all the things that they might have needs for, but your firm will have a much broader set. And so how you then use that relationship and the trust that you've built with that client to be
Yeah.
able to say, I can introduce you to David. I have not solved or worked on that problem,
Yeah.
but David has, and I can get you to have a conversation with him. And there's not enough of that collaboration, in my
Yeah.
view, in most firms to be
Yeah.
able to say, okay, how do I first know what David's really good at so that I can know when to introduce him, but then also how do I make sure that at the right moment I leverage him in the right way?
Yeah.
And also, if I don't have the right capabilities, don't tell the client that you do. I mean, you earn so much more trust by telling clients like, hey, you know what, that's a really big problem or a really interesting problem. That's not me. That's not us. We don't, that's, a different, I'd go over here. I'd talk to, this type of firm that has these capabilities and I'd be happy to introduce you. But not enough of that happens in professional services, the
Yeah.
way this industry's matured.
Well, I couldn't agree more. We're all about how do you activate the biggest asset of a professional services firm, your people, to be more comfortable engaging clients. Take your blinders off, pick your head up, pay attention. Clients have other needs and issues beyond the matter you're working on.
Yep.
One of the big speed bumps in that, and I think you just touched on it, was a lot of these consultants, they know their line of business.
Yep.
They know their area of expertise individually and my practice. They're a little loose about some of the other competencies of the organization,
Sure.
especially big ones like Kearney. And so that's sometimes half the battle. Now, they don't have to have all the answers, as you said. They don't have to be an expert in everything. It's okay to say, that's not my area of expertise, but I do know that we have deep expertise in that area, and I'd like to connect you. And that's okay.
Yep.
Too often, this is a group that has a mindset that I have to have all the answers,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, they're not going to love me.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is it's okay to say you don't have all the answers individually, but the firm does.
Well, and you can't. You can't. There's
way.
no way you can,
No
and
way.
and there's no way you can represent yourself to your client that you have that answer, all these
Yeah.
answers. Because even if let's take a simple example. I go in and I sell a supply chain job to a client. Well, there's probably stuff I know about organization or about change management that would be relevant for the client. But if I sold myself to that client as the supply chain expert,
Yeah.
I lose credibility on all these other topics. And they trust me to be able to, because I did a great job on the supply chain job, but they're going to want the expert on the other topics to come
Yeah.
in. And so my job then is to make sure that I'm connecting them across to the right people in the organization. And that's how you grow a client base. It's not by selling. It's a lot easier once you're in the door to sell them on other things that you can do as a firm because you've got the credibility with them
Yeah.
than it is to go and find the next client on the narrow topic that you're really the expert on.
Well, we have really discerning buyers right now.
Oh yeah,
And
they
they
should
can-
be.
They can sniff out players
Yeah.
and pretenders, right? So don't pretend.
Yeah,
Right. And it's
absolutely.
okay to not have the exact answer, but it's not okay to not know where to find that expertise. If your firm has that capability, you should know that we have that capability and know where to go find it. Let's shift a little bit. Okay. Our podcast is called Every Touch Point Matters. Every interaction matters, especially in a commoditized world called professional services. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think, well, and I'll start it with clients. I think that every interaction you have with a client sets an impression for you, whether it's your first one or your last one. You're only as good as the last interaction that you had with your client or with any relationship. But to me, it is that those touch points, you have to be very thoughtful about how do you make your best impression in each one of them and make sure that you are, a foundation of doing right by them, but then also ensuring that you're always helping to add value to that relationship in some way because you're bringing something that makes them think. And so that's to me like on the client side. I also think every touch point matters within your organization, within your community. I think that the same principles apply. I think that every interaction that you have with your team members, they remember things and will come back and remind you of something that you said, sometimes 10, 20 years ago
Yeah.
about that you had no recollection of, didn't think it was meaningful at all. But each one of those little interactions adds up to your own reputation.
Yep.
And I think in any business, but in life, frankly, not even in business, I'll take it in life, your reputation is, that's what you have. That's what you carry with you every day. And so how you interact with people establishes that reputation. And so that's why every touch point matters, because the first time you're inconsistent with that reputation or the values that you've set, or it lowers the bar, and that will carry with you throughout your career.
David, it sounds like we're like old guys talking here. Gray hair, old school, every touch matters.
I think we are old guys talking, but
well,
yeah.
we are. But do the younger folks believe this? Do they get it? Do they recognize the importance of these touches?
I think that yes, but we have not done a great job of helping them to understand it. And I think that they are sponges looking to grow, learn, interact with senior people, interact with one another. I think as COVID came across, it just broke a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't created the opportunities for them to learn the importance of personal interactions and how they develop. And therefore that's a muscle that has kind of atrophied. And I think they're dying for it. I had a group of our top probably 60, we call them emerging leaders, together 2 weeks ago. And they're just soaking it up. They just want to be together. They want to talk to leaders. They want to understand and grow. And so they're dying to figure out how do they keep growing as individuals. And they recognize that they need that interaction to be able to do it. I'd also say one of the things that I reflect on is it was amazing to be able to move from, in a matter of weeks from a in-person world to a virtual world in COVID. It's like incredible that the world figured out how do we actually continue to operate when everything had been done in person, or virtually everything, and everything was done remotely, and everything's going to keep moving. What we didn't figure out, though, is how to lead in a virtual world. And I think you have to be a lot more purposeful in creating time and space for people to have personal connections and interactions. It's very easy to jump on calls and go through the agenda, talk about the topic that you're supposed to talk about, the content, and miss all the personal interactions about the family, about how they're feeling, about what's going on in their lives. That's where you build depth. And it happens naturally when you're face to face, because you get around the water cooler or just, grabbing lunch or whatever, and you do those chit chats. And we've lost that in a post-COVID world because it's so transactional. So I think how we set time, make time to have those depth of personal interactions is very important for our people. It's also important with clients. Like when you have depth of, understanding of what motivates a client, like what do they do when they're not, working? Like it takes the relationship to a whole new level. But again, you have to find time in the appropriate way to be able to get into that. And it's different than it used to be.
What are some of the levers you're pulling at Point B that is supporting that?
Well, we're starting with getting you involved
Okay.
and helping our team to understand the importance of relationship development. It's a program that I ran, a similar program at Kearney. And I think there's a lot to be learned from just, I'd say it's rigor, consistency, how to just be able to make sure that you're taking an opening and then keep finding ways in the right way to elevate that. That's one. The second is I am spending a lot of time myself with our teams and helping them, just showing them like, okay, here's how we can have a different type of a conversation. We don't need a deck, or if we needed a deck, it should be 3 pages and not 20. It's like, it's a little bit of that, like showing them how to do it. I'm also spending a lot more time on and I started to do a lot more of this in the COVID environment, a lot more time on communications and open communications where there's just free flow of questions. Even if it's big groups, I'll have 500 people on a call,
Yeah.
and okay, like we got 10 minutes at the end, let's have a conversation. But it makes it, and also opening up to say, you don't have to wait for the next time that we have this call. If you've got a question, let's have a conversation, reach out.
Yeah.
So I think that finding ways to interact with people and show that there's an openness to input is so important. And so I've spent a lot of time doing that. I did a lot of that at Kearney, but I've carried that forward into Point
Well,
B.
and you're modeling that behavior. You've got the open door policy. You make it, you constantly communicate that that's available to you. Hopefully people are taking advantage
Yeah.
of it.
They do. It's, I think I always want to be more. There's still social media channels out there where people gripe and stuff. So I keep encouraging them, like, listen, you got, like, why are you posting it on, some website? Just like, give me a call.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers. I welcome all the input. I'm not saying that everything that gets recommended we're going to do, but listen, this is an open dialogue about what are the right choices to make as a firm. And so I really do encourage that. And a lot of people do take advantage of it.
It sounds like there's an element of in-person communication and connection with.
Oh yeah.
Are you doing
Well, and I
roadshows
do.
and
Yeah,
getting out
yeah,
there?
yeah. I've been to I shouldn't say I've been to every one of our hubs. I've been to 10 out of our 12
Okay.
hubs. So in each one of those, we're having, roundtable talk of what's going on. So there's a little, those are important too, because it gives them an opportunity to be able to, just have a face-to-face conversation.
Yeah.
And then we also have resource groups. So I spend a lot of time with them. So I talked about the emerging leaders,
Yes.
but we have other resource groups too that are communities within our team that I'll spend time with as well. So we've got a number of different channels like that not only me, but it's our entire leadership team are spending time with.
Well, it takes time, it takes effort, but when people see that from their leaders, that's a modeling exercise,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
fantastic.
it goes back to being an energy business.
Yes.
You can't,
Love it.
like energy doesn't come through an email.
Yeah.
You can give a little bit, but the energy comes when you're actually in person having a conversation or, in video and able to interact. And so that's a critical part of it to me.
Well, and it feels like people are feeding off of that energy and it just becomes this, runaway event, a grassroots movement. So
Oh,
congratulations.
yeah, we're working on it. Yeah.
I am so grateful to have had you. I want to ask one last question, and I think you've touched on it, but if you were to really net it out, if you were to coach the next generation, and I'm not talking to your emerging leaders. These people are emerging leaders for a reason. They're hungry. But I'm talking about even younger than that. The new associates who are a few years into the business. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, actually I had a group yesterday
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
our new hires on the call, and my message is very consistent every time. I think first is be curious. I think this is such a great opportunity they have. They're coming into a fantastic industry. It is a really dynamic time, whether you're in consulting or business in any way. There's so much happening. So be curious, learn, keep your eyes open, connect both internally and externally. And, you've got a group of people that you're in your start class or, that is a great place. It's a source that will, those people will go off and they'll do all kinds of interesting things. And you will as well, but that gives you a right there, a group of people that you can connect with and establish relationships that'll last a lifetime.
Yes.
But do the same with clients. At every client, pick out, 2 or 3 people that you're going to be committed to staying in touch with.
Yeah.
And over the course of a career, that just adds up and you end up with a huge Rolodex of people. And that, again, no matter what you're doing, that Rolodex is helpful, whether you're leading a business, whether you're consulting, whatever. That is a group of people and friends that you will be able to tap into. And the last is, enjoy it. Like, I think, don't take any of this like too seriously. Like there's so much, just have fun and don't sweat the little things, sweat the big things. And I think that if you do that, lots of good things will happen.
Wow. Thank you for that wisdom. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me here today. Thank you for reinforcing the importance of some of the things that we teach at Gray Matters. We've been doing it for a long time. I think it's, as you know, and you believe the same, these are skills that these consultants need to start cultivating more and more of. You're going to show up more strategically with your clients as that value add individual if we can bring that those other elements to the table. So, David, thank you for venturing out to our studio and just sharing some amazing pearls.
Thank you. I appreciate it, David.
All right, my friend. Take care.